Good morning. Earlier this week, I went and tried something new, something I'd never done before. I went out and took sailing lessons. This was my first lesson. It was a gift that a friend of mine had given me earlier this year for my birthday. I'd been out on a few sailboats before in my life with a couple of friends of mine, and it was something that was always a lot of fun. I enjoyed doing, and so I thought it'd be a really neat thing to be able to go and take sailing lessons and learn how to do this. And so earlier this week, I went for my first sailing lesson so that hopefully by the end of this, not that I'll be an expert by any means, but maybe I'll have a new hobby and something that I can go and enjoy and do for a long time to come. At this first sailing lesson, they taught us all about the different parts of a boat and how you rig up a boat and you get ready to sail and all the different things that you need to know to go out on the water. And then they actually took us out on the water, and the first lesson of actually sailing was how to tack. Now, for those who aren't familiar with sailing, tacking is how you turn when you're turning into the wind or turning across the wind. So if you're trying to sail into the wind is the one direction you cannot sail, directly into the wind. So you have to tack, you have to turn back and forth in kind of a zigzag pattern to be able to go upwind. And so that's what they were teaching us on our first night of sailing lessons. As they were teaching us this, it reminded me of a book that I told you about recently in a coffee with Bob, a book called First You Have to Row a Little Boat. It was a book that's all about life lessons that come from sailing. And in this book, Richard, the author, tells the story about whenever he was a younger guy and he was just starting to learn to sail and really getting into it as a teenager. And there was a young lady that he wanted to impress, and so he invited her to come out on his sailboat one day, and he was going to take her sailing. They got out there on the boat, and they decided that they wanted to go across the bay to this island, and there they would be able to go out and swim around and see their friends and have some fun together. But when they got on the sailboat and they got out into the bay, he realized that the wind was coming directly from the island, and he was going to be sailing into the wind. And so that meant that he wouldn't be able to take a direct line to the island. He was going to have to tack. He was going to have to zigzag back and forth the whole way in order to get to the island where they wanted to go. Well, he said they were halfway across the bay whenever she finally lost her patience. She said, "I don't understand why we're zigzagging back and forth. Why don't you just take a direct line?" And she got tired of it, and she just wanted to turn around and go back. Well, needless to say, that was the last date that he had with this girl. But he said, looking back on life later on, he saw that this really was a life lesson. So often in life, we just want to get where we're trying to go. And we want to take the most direct route to get there. But sometimes that's not the way that life works. Sometimes in order to get where we're going, we find that life just takes these zigzags back and forth. And sometimes along the way, it can test our patience. And it can be really tempting to just want to give up. But what they taught us the other night in this first sailing lesson is they said that when you're zigzagging back and forth, it's sometimes easy to become disoriented and you lose your way of where you're trying to go. And so the key is to pick a spot out on the shoreline, something that is not moving, a building or an object. And if you pick that, then even as you zigzag back and forth, if you keep your eyes focused on it, you'll always know where you're trying to go, and it will get you there eventually. That's true in life as well. Even as we go through life and sometimes we're zigzagging back and forth trying to get where we're going to go, if we're willing to keep our eyes on Jesus, if we're willing to focus our eyes on our faith, eventually that's going to be the anchor that will help us to find our way. So that even in those moments where we become disoriented or we begin to lose our patience, if we're looking to Christ, we will find the way. Today, you may find yourself in a place where you're zigzagging back and forth in life. You may feel like you're having to tack in order to get where you're going. Rather than being frustrated and losing patience with it, use this as an opportunity today to fix your eyes on Jesus, to be reminded of where you're going. And eventually, we know that with God's help along the way, by the grace of God, we're going to get there. And we're going to be the people that God wants us to be. I hope you make it a great day today.